Happy Tuesday, everyone. Okay, so today is Topping Tuesday, and I want to know if you could choose any toppings to have on top of your ice cream. There can be more than one. What would you choose? Are you a sprinkles person? Are you a chocolate syrup person? Are you a caramel or a strawberry person? Do you like fruit on your ice cream? What is it that you like on your ice cream? And my favorite thing to have on my ice cream is hot fudge. I am a lot of hot fudge kind of person. That's really about it. Maybe some whipped cream, but I don't really want cherries or sprinkles or anything like that. Just some hot fudge. Okay, so you can email me your response or put it on Class Dojo, or if your family is friends with me on Facebook, you can send me a message there. And I look forward to hearing what it is that you like on your ice cream. Okay, so before I get started going over the book from yesterday, Grayson wanted me to share with you guys that Easter evening, so Sunday evening, he lost his front tooth, just one of them. And then yesterday, he lost the other one. So now he has both of his top middle teeth are missing. So he wanted me to share with you all that he has now lost both of his top teeth. Okay, and he has one on the bottom that he had lost before we left for spring break, and it's just now starting to come up, so he's got like 3 teeth missing in the front. It's kind of entertaining when he's talking. Okay, so yesterday we finished part 2 of the book, and it was all about Rescuro, the rat from downstairs in the basement or the cellar or whatever we're calling it. And he was obsessed with light. He had to know everything there was to know about the light that's coming from upstairs. And one of the other rats from down in the cellar told him, this is a terrible idea. You're going to realize that this is terrible. Something is going to happen, and you're going to regret this decision. You're going to regret being so obsessed with the light. You are a rat. You are supposed to make people miserable. Your whole point of life is to make other people suffer. And oh my goodness, did he learn his lesson. So he goes upstairs, he goes to the banquet hall, and he sees all of these people and all this beautiful stuff, and it's so bright and light, and there's music, and he's loving every second of it. And he gets there, and he climbs up on the table, and he climbs up on the chandelier, and he's hanging there swinging. He falls into the queen's soup, and that was where we left off on. When was that? Friday. So then yesterday we learned that it shocked the queen to death, literally, like she died. And the way that Princess P looked at Rescuro, just with like disgust and distaste and just, you are the nastiest thing I've seen in my whole entire life, and you just killed my mom, so that doesn't help any either. That resonated with him, that just stuck with him. And he had this in the back of his head, just the way that Princess P looked at him. And instead of him understanding that, rats don't have a great relationship with humans. Humans see them as, animals that carry diseases, and they're known for getting into trash or tearing stuff up and chewing through things. And instead of, understanding that they don't have a great relationship or a great, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry, I completely blanked. But humans don't see rats as great things. Anywho, I'll try to think of that word I'm trying to think of, and then I'll get it back with you on that. I just drew a blank. Anywho, so instead of understanding that, it upset Rescuro that she gave him such a nasty look. And so he then decided that he was his new life goal was, yes, going to make people suffer, but mainly he's going to find a way to make Princess P suffer for the way she looked at him. And that's where we left off. We don't know. He got back down into the cellar, and he was making himself a cape from the red tablecloth that he had stolen from the prisoner. And he'd also taken a spoon from the banquet hall before he left, and he was wearing it as a crown, and he said, this is my own crown. So his number one goal now is going to be to make Princess P suffer. So that is where we left off. We don't know what's going to happen there yet. and how he's going to do this. But we also heard that when this happened, a new character is showing up, and her name is Miggery Sow. And the author describes her in the book as a young girl that looked like nothing so much as pieces of cauliflower stuck on either side of her head. So instead of she has ears, but her ears look like pieces of cauliflower on both sides. So this girl is going to play a huge role in helping Despereaux work his revenge. So that is where we're starting now, is the third part of the book, and it's called Gore, the Tale of Miggery Sow. So once again, if there are pictures, I will show you. And we're going to read chapters 24 through 28 today. So chapter 24. A handful of cigarettes, a red tablecloth, and a hen. Seems like a very odd combination of things. Again, reader, we must go backward before we can go forward. With that said, here begins a short history of the life and times of Miggery Sow, a girl born into this world many years before the mouse Despereaux and the rat Despereaux, a girl born far from the castle, a girl named for her father's favorite prize-winning pig. How would you feel if your mama and daddy named you after a pig? My goodness. Miggery Sow was 6 years old when her mother, holding on to Mig's hand and staring directly into Mig's eyes, died. "Ma," said Mig, "Ma, couldn't you stay here with me?" "Oh," said her mother, "who is that? Who is that holding my hand?" "It's me, Ma, Miggery Sow." "Ah, child, let me go." "But I want you to stay here," said Mig, wiping her runny nose and then her runny eyes. "You want," said her mother. "Yes," said Mig, "I want." "Ah, child, and it does not matter what you are wanting," said her mother. She squeezed Mig's hand once, twice, and then she died, leaving Mig alone with her father, who, on a market day in the spring, soon after his wife's death, sold his daughter into service for a handful of cigarettes, a red tablecloth, and a hen. I feel like we've heard that before. "Papa," said Mig when her father was walking away from her with the hen in his arm and a cigarette in his mouth and the red tablecloth draped across his shoulders like a cape. "Go on, Mig," he said. "You belong to that man now." "But I don't want to, Papa," she said. "I want to go with you." She took a hold of the red tablecloth and tugged on it. "Lord, child," her father said, "and who is asking you what you want? Go on now." He untangled her fingers from the cloth and turned her in the direction of the man who had bought her. Mig watched her father walk away, the red tablecloth billowing out behind her. He left his daughter, and reader, as you already know, he did not look back. Not even once. Can you imagine it? Can you imagine your father selling you for a tablecloth, a hen, and a handful of cigarettes? Close your eyes, please, and consider it for just a moment. Done? I hope that the hair on the back of your neck stood up as you thought of Mig's fate and how it would be if it were your own. Poor Mig, what will become of her? You must, frightened though you may be, read on and see for yourself. Reader, it is your duty. Chapter 25, A Vicious Circle. Miggery Sow called the man who purchased her uncle, as he said she must. And also he said she must tend uncle's sheep and cook uncle's food and scrub uncle's kettles. She did all of this without a word of thanks or praise from the man himself. Another unfortunate fact of life with uncle was that he very much liked giving Mig what he referred to as a good clout to the ear. In fairness to Uncle, it must be reported that he did always inquire whether or not Mig was interested in receiving the clout. Their daily exchanges went something like this. "Uncle, I thought I told you to clean the kettle." Mig, "I cleaned it, Uncle. I cleaned it good." Uncle, "Ah, it's filthy. You'll have to be punished, won't ye?" Mig, "Poor Uncle, I cleaned the kettle." The uncle, "Are ye saying that I'm a liar, girl?" Mig, no, Uncle. Uncle, do you want a good clout to the ear then? Mig, no thank you, Uncle, I don't. Alas, Uncle seemed to be as entirely unconcerned with what Mig wanted as her mother and father had been. They discussed the clout to the ear was always delivered, I'm afraid, with a great deal of enthusiasm on Uncle's part, and received with absolutely no enthusiasm at all on the part of Mig. These clouts were alarmingly frequent, and Uncle was scrupulously fair in paying attention to both the right and left side of Miggery Sow. So it was that time, after a time, that young Mig's ears came to resemble not so much ears as pieces of cauliflower stuck to either side of her head, and they became about as useful to her as pieces of cauliflower. That is to say, that they all but ceased their functioning as ears. Words, for Mig, lost their sharp edges, and then they lost their edges altogether and became blurry, blankety things that she had a great deal of trouble making any sense at all out of. The less Mig heard, the less she understood. The less she understood, the more things she did wrong. And the more things she did wrong, the more clouts to the ear she received, and the less she heard. This is what is known as a vicious circle, and Miggery Sow is right in the center of it, which is not, reader, where anybody would want to be. But then, as you know, what Miggery Sow wanted had never been much of a concern to anyone. So I think we need to stop right there for a second. And a clout, that is a fancy word for saying that he hit her upside the head. So he was just punching her or hitting her in the ear with either his hand or something. He was smacking her upside the head with something. Chapter 26, Royalty. When Mig turned 7 years old, there was no cake, no celebration, no singing, no present, no acknowledgement of her birthday at all, other than Mig saying, "Uncle, today I am 7 years old." And Uncle saying in return, "Did I ask you how old you were today? Get out of my face before I give you a good clout to the ear." A few hours after receiving her birthday clout to the ear, Mig was out in the field with Uncle's sheep when she saw something glittering and glowing on the horizon. She thought for a moment that it was the sun, but she turned and she saw that the sun was in the west, where it should be, sinking to join the earth. The thing that shone so brightly was something else. Mig stood in the field and shaded her eyes with her left hand and watched the brilliant light draw closer and closer and closer until it revealed itself to be King Philip and his Queen Rosemary and their daughter, the young Princess P. The royal family was surrounded by knights in shining armor and horses in shining armor, and atop each member of the royal family's head there was a golden crown, and they were all, the king and the queen and the princess, dressed in robes decorated with jewels and sequins that glittered and glowed and captured the light of the setting sun and reflected it back. "Gore," breathed Mig. The Princess P was riding on a white horse that picked up its legs very high and set them down very daintily. The P saw Mig standing and staring, and she raised a hand to her. "Hello," the Princess P called out merrily. "Hello." And she waved her hand again. Mig did not wave back. Instead, she stood and watched, open-mouthed, as the perfect, beautiful family passed by. "Papa," called the princess to the king, "what is wrong with the girl? She will not wave at me." "Never mind," said the king. "It is no consequence, my dear." "But I am a princess, and I waved to her. She should wave back." Mig, for her part, continued to stare. Looking at the royal family had awakened some deep and slumbering need in her. It was as if a small candle had been lit in her interior, sparked to life by the brilliance of the king and the queen and the princess. For the first time in her life, reader, Mig hoped. And hope is like love, a ridiculous, wonderful, powerful thing. Mig tried to name this strange emotion. She put a hand up to touch one of her aching ears, and then she realized the feeling she was experiencing. The hope blooming inside of her felt exactly the opposite of a good clout. She smiled and took her hand away from her ear. She waved to the princess. "Today is my birthday," Mig called out. But the king and the queen and the princess were now too far away to hear her. "Today," shouted Mig, "I am 7 years old." And here is a picture of Mig, and she is looking on at the king and the queen and the princess riding by. Chapter 27, A Wish. That night, in the small dark hut that she shared with Uncle and the sheep, Mig tried to speak of what she had seen. "Uncle," she said, I saw some human stars today." "How's that?" "I saw them all glittering and glowing, and there was a little princess wearing her own crown and riding on a little white tippy-toed horse." "What are you going on about?" said Uncle. "I saw a king and a queen and an itty-bitty princess," shouted Mig. "So?" shouted Uncle back. "I would like," said Mig shyly, "I wish to be one of them princesses." "Ha ha," laughed Uncle. "Ha ha, an ugly dumb thing like you. You ain't even worth the enormous lot I paid for you. Don't I wish every night that I had back that good hen and that red tablecloth in place of you?" He did not wait for Mig to guess the answer to this question. "I do," he said. "I wish it every night. The tablecloth was the color of blood. The hen could lay eggs like nobody's business." "I want to be a princess," said Mig. "I want to wear a crown." "A crown?" Uncle laughed. She wants to wear a crown." He laughed harder. He took the empty kettle and put it atop his head. "Look at me," he said. "I am a king. See my crown? I am a king just like I wanted to be. I am a king because I want to be one." He danced around the hut with the kettle on his head. He laughed until he cried. And then he stopped dancing and took the kettle from his head and looked at Mig and said, "Do you want a good clout to the ear for such nonsense?" "No, thank you, Uncle," said Mig. But she got one anyway. "Look here," said Uncle after the clout had been delivered. "We will hear no more talk of princesses. Besides, who ever asked you what you wanted in this world, girl?" The answer to that question, reader, as you well know, was absolutely no one. Chapter 28, To the Castle. Years passed. Mig spent them scrubbing the kettle and tending the sheep and cleaning the hut and collecting innumerable, uncountable, extremely painful clouts to the ear. In the evening, spring or winter, summer or fall, Mig stood in the field as the sun set, hoping the royal family would pass before her again. I would like to see that little princess another time, wouldn't I? And her little pony, too, with his tippy-toed feet. This wish, this hope that she would see the princess again was lodged deep in Mig's heart. Lodged firmly, right next to it was the hope that she, Miggery Sow, could someday become a princess herself. The first of Mig's wishes was granted. In a roundabout way, when King Philip outlawed soup, the king's men were set out to deliver the grim news and to collect from the people of the kingdom of Dor their kettles, their spoons, and their bowls. Reader, you know exactly and why this law came to pass, so you would not be surprised, as Uncle was, when one Sunday a soldier of the king knocked on the door of the hut that Mig and Uncle and the sheep shared and announced that soup was against the law. "How's that?" said Uncle. "By royal order of King Philip," repeated the soldier, "I am sent here to tell you that soup has been outlawed in the kingdom of Dor. You will, by order of the king, never again consume soup, nor will you think of it or talk about it, and I, as one of the king's loyal servants, am here to take away your soup spoons, your kettles, and your bowls." "But that can't be," said Uncle. "Well, nevertheless it is." "What will we eat?" "What will we eat with?" "Cake," suggested the soldier, "with a fork." "And wouldn't that be lovely," said Uncle, "if we could afford to eat cake?" The soldier shrugged. "I'm only doing my duty. Please hand over your spoons, your bowls, and your kettle." Uncle grabbed a hold of his beard. He let go of his beard and grabbed the hair on his head. "Unbelievable," he shouted. "I suppose next the king will be wanting my sheep and my girl, seeing as those are the only possessions I have left." "Do you own a girl?" said the soldier. "I do," said Uncle, "a worthless one, but still, she is mine." "Ah," said the soldier, "that, I am afraid, is against the law too. No human may own another in the kingdom of Dor." "But I paid for her, fair and square, with a good laying hen and a handful of cigarettes and a blood-red tablecloth." "No matter," said the soldier, "it's against the law to own another. Now, you will hand her over to me, and if you please, your spoons, your bowls, your kettle, and your girl. Or if you choose not to hand over those things, then you will come with me to be imprisoned in the castle dungeon. Which will it be?" And that is how Miggery Sow came to be sitting on a wagon full of soup-related items next to a soldier of the king. "Do you have parents?" said the soldier. "I will return you to them." "Eh? A ma?" shouted the soldier. "Dead," said Mig. "Your pa?" shouted the soldier. "I ain't seen him since he sold me." "Right. I'll take you to the castle then." "Course," said Mig, looking around the wagon in confusion. "You'll want me to paddle?" "To the castle," shouted the soldier. "I'll take you to the castle." "The castle where the itty-bitty princess lives?" "That's right." "Course," said Mig. "I am to be a princess too someday." "That's a fine dream," said the soldier. He clucked to the horse and tapped the reins, and they took off. "I'm happy to be going," said Mig, putting a hand in gently touching one of her cauliflower ears. "Might just as well be happy, seeing as it doesn't make any difference to anyone. But if you are or not," said the soldier, "we will take you to the castle, and they will set you up fine. You will no longer be a slave, you will be a paid servant." "Eh?" said Mig. "You'll be a servant," shouted the soldier, "not a slave." "Gore," said Mig, satisfied. "A servant I will be, not a slave." She was 12 years old. Her mother was dead. Her father had sold her. Her uncle, who wasn't her uncle at all, had clouded her until she was almost deaf. And she wanted, more than anything in the world, to be a little princess, wearing a golden crown and riding a high-stepping white horse. Reader, do you think that it is a terrible thing to hope when there's really no reason to hope at all? Or is it, as the soldier said about happiness, something that you might as well just do, since in the end it really makes no difference to anyone but you? And that is where we stop for today. All right, so go ahead and answer Topping Tuesday and send me your answers on what it would be that you would want as toppings on top of your ice cream. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.